It takes weeks to properly mourn a sudden death. It takes months to untangle a life that ended without warning. Sometimes it takes years to understand what actually happened. In this case, the understanding was reached before the family had chosen a casket. 48 hours. That was the full lifespan of the investigation, from the moment authorities arrived at the house to the moment the file was stamped closed. Less than 2 days passed. By the third morning, the tape was gone. The room was cleaned. The address returned to being just another place someone lived. The official conclusion was simple: accidental death. A fall inside the home, possibly influenced by a sudden medical event. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle. Nothing on the surface that demanded more time. On paper, it looks efficient, responsible even. A tragedy clearly explained. But clarity is rarely immediate. And when certainty arrives this quickly, it invites a quieter question, not about what was found, but about what never had the chance to surface. The home itself was unremarkable, a modest residence in a quiet neighborhood, no history of police calls, no known disputes, the kind of place investigators are trained not to linger on once the obvious boxes are checked. First responders documented the scene. The body's position was consistent with a fall. There were no visible injuries that contradicted the explanation. The medical examiner offered a preliminary assessment that aligned with the assumption already forming. According to the report, protocol was followed. But even within that report, time begins to misalign. There is a 3-hour window in the official timeline, late in the evening, where the victim's movements are unaccounted for. No witnesses, no confirmed location, just a blank stretch between when they were last known to be active and when emergency services were called. In most investigations, that gap becomes the center of gravity. Those hours are examined, re-examined, and argued over. They represent the part of the story that hasn't decided what it wants to be yet. Here, the gap was acknowledged and then set aside. It was described as irrelevant to the outcome. Not missing time, just unused context.
By the second day, the ruling was issued. That speed mattered more than it first appeared. 2 neighbors later reported hearing raised voices from the house that night. Not screaming, not violence, just an argument, sharp enough to be remembered, quiet enough to be dismissed. Normally, statements like that are formalized, timelines are compared, memories are tested against one another. But by the time those neighbors realized their accounts might matter, the case no longer existed in any active sense. There was no investigator assigned, no follow-up scheduled, no mechanism for friction. The speed of the closure didn't just provide an answer, it narrowed the window in which questions were allowed to form. What's difficult to ignore is how smooth the process was. Real investigations resist cohesion. People misremember, details contradict, forensics take time. Even simple cases develop rough edges when they're pressed long enough. This one didn't. From discovery to conclusion, the narrative moved in a straight line. No pauses, no backtracking, no visible hesitation. And when a story arrives fully formed that quickly, it begins to feel less like something uncovered and more like something decided. Speed is often mistaken for competence because it feels orderly. Closure feels kind. It allows everyone involved to stop looking. But speed is not neutral. It shapes what survives scrutiny and what never encounters it. In this case, uncertainty appears to have been treated not as a necessary part of the process, but as something to be cleared away. The official ruling has never been challenged. The family accepted the findings. There was no trial, no suspect, no appeal. Just a file, closed 48 hours after it was opened. The math is simple. 2 days to determine that nothing else needed to be examined. 2 days to decide there was nothing left to ask. The case is considered finished. But when an investigation ends this quickly, it's worth asking whether it reached the truth, or whether it simply reached the point where continuing felt inconvenient. Does speed bring answers, or does it just make sure silence arrives first?